few minutes later.
It's Thursday and Friday, so. Tomorrow's what?
Tomorrow's the better lunch.
Oh.
Good morning again. It is 9:35, I'm going to call the Solid Waste Authority Board meeting to order. Will the clerk please take roll?
Vice Mayor Baxter,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Mia Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Commissioner Sacks,
Here.
Commissioner Weiss,
Here.
Commissioner Woodward. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Pelowitz, would you please provide the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. Dear God, as we gather here today, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, Madam Chair, there are. There is. I am requesting to reorder the agenda to take item 9D1, the approval to incorporate Service Area 5 into Service Area 2 for fiscal year 2026, to immediately follow item 6, matters by the public.
I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion by Mayor Marino and a second by Commissioner Woodward. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Mayor, I don't think your mic is on.
Thank you. I make a motion we approve the minutes from
Yes.
June 11th, 2025.
I have a motion by the Mayor Marino. I have a second by Commissioner Woodward. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Do you need a motion to receive and file items 4A and B? I will make that.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Marino, a second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed say nay. Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Here on to
Do we have any cards for matters by the public?
Do we have any cards? No cards for matters by the public.
Thank you. We have not done the Citizens Advisory Committee minutes, or did you,
I made a motion for both.
for all of them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now we're on to
Public-
9D1. We reordered the agenda to take 9D1, so we're on to 9D1.
Are we having a presentation, Mr. Pelowitz?
Absolutely. At the June board meeting, the board directed us to move forward with negotiating with Waste Management, who is the service hauler for Service Area 2, to agree to incorporate Service Area 5, which is the Glades, into Service Area 2 for this year, until we can bid this, of course, for this fiscal year. And this, we have met with them, and they've agreed to take Service Area 5 into Service Area 2. The Service Area 2 residents will be charged the Service Area 2 rates. Waste Management will be paid in accordance with the rates in their current contract. That's the piggyback with South Bay, Service Area 5. We will be making up the difference. This is a rate reduction for the Glades residents, and that difference will be made up from the collection reserve for Service Area 5 in the amount of $190,345.20 and an upfront lump sum payment. That is what we've agreed to. Waste Management has already agreed to it and executed the agreement. I just need your approval for me to execute it on the authority's behalf.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first by Mayor Marino, a second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
So now we're back to 7.
Now it's the public hearing on the budget. I think Mr. Dunkley has a presentation.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Since our last meeting, yes, the presentation is up. Oh, thanks. So since our last meeting, we've received updated unit counts from the property appraiser's office, which has led to some downward adjustment in primarily all of the rates, the single-family, multifamily, commercial. Those rates have been decreased, and the budget has not changed significantly from what we presented in June, but for the following items. As reflected here, the single-family as well as multifamily rates have decreased slightly from the rates that were approved preliminarily in June. And the main reason is that the updated unit counts, we are spreading essentially the same costs among more units. And so we were able to adjust the rates downward. The commercial rates, the same principle apply. The rate for commercial low is down by pretty much 1/10 of a penny. Commercial medium is down 4/10 of a cent, and the commercial high is down 2.1 cent per square foot. The governmental rate remained largely unchanged, primarily because the tonnage, their rate is based on a per ton, and the estimated tonnage there did not decrease or did not change significantly. From a dollar, rather, going to the mandatory collection rates, which is at the bottom, those rates remain unchanged because they're driven primarily due to, as a result of agreements with the franchisors. From a dollar standpoint, we did not see any significant change in the revenue. The disposal assessments will go up slightly, tipping fees as well. On the expenditure side of the ledger, we were able to tweak the estimate for insurance expenses by decreasing that. We received some updated estimates from our insurance broker. That led us to kind of shore up our CIP budget slightly with the net difference. Taken as a whole, the disposal assessment rates, the pink, as what I would call pink, hopefully it's not a color change there, but the pink rates in pink were the ones that were advertised on the trim notices, which you should be receiving perhaps the end of this week, early next week. The final rates that staff is proposing is in the second to the right column. As was indicated earlier, the single family rates have decreased, as well as multifamily and commercial. Those rates have decreased from the ones that we proposed in June. The collection rates have not changed from those rates that were discussed in June. The only thing we wanted to point out was the rates for Service Area 5. Those rates, as a result of merging that service area into Service Area 2, will see a significant reduction, and that's the only reason there why you see such a major delta there. And so taken as a whole, the rates here, as depicted and discussed earlier, from a tipping fee standpoint, the only change that staff has proposed, which was approved in June, which is a $15 increase for special waste, which we are proposing it to go from $65 to $80 a ton. So what we're seeking essentially is approval, the board's approval of the fiscal year 26 budget. We're approving the adjusted rates for the property tax bill, which will be going out in November, the actual bill, and the approval of the tip fee rate schedule, as well as resolutions 2005, 2025-02, 2025-03, and 04. And with that, we're available for any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I guess when I looked at the fees, if we can go like 3 slides back to the collection fees. You know, as I look at the collection fee, I feel like service area 2 and 5 are pretty high in comparison to some of the others. And I understand the redistricting we did to accommodate and what we just approved. So I'm okay with that. I guess what I'm considering, or when I look at this, is that my area, or part of my area, is having to pay some of the larger costs. And I understand why, because we're combined with the western portion of the county. But as we look forward and we move towards going out for bids next, I believe that's going out next year, is that correct?
That's correct.
I would like to see if there is any way that we can look at how we draw the maps so that some of the service areas are a little bit more, there's not such a disparity between 377 and 208. And I don't know what the new rates are going to be, because obviously we're going out to bid. But, you know, as I see this, I just feel like certain parts of the county are paying a little bit more, and I understand part of the reason why. But maybe there's a way that we can sort of make this a little bit more fair or balanced for everyone in the county. So I don't know what that would look like. I guess I would leave that up to the expertise of the administration. But I just think that maybe how redrawing the maps maybe alleviate some of that. So I just wanted to bring that up. Once again, I understand why, but I just feel like maybe we can do something to help alleviate some of that for everyone.
Point well taken, Commissioner. Thanks for the input.
Is that all, Commissioner Flores? You can continue? Or are we all finished?
I guess at this point, we're asking for the board to adopt the budget, approve the assessment and tip fee rates, approve the tip fee rate schedule, and then adopt resolutions number 2025-02, 2025-03, and 2025-04. I guess we can take the first three together, if you'd like, and then do each resolution separately, and I'd like to read the caption of each resolution.
I'll go ahead and make the motion on the first three items.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a first by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Mayor Marino. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. And Administrator Pelowitz, if you'd like to read.
Yes, I'll read the motion, and then we can take a vote on each one. I'll read the caption. So resolution number 2025-02, a resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolution 2021-01 and Resolution 91-27 and Florida Statute 197.3632, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, adopting a schedule of property classifications, adopting rates, defining collection areas, ratifying and adopting the annual non-ad valorem assessment roll, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
I'll make the motion. We approve.
Second.
First by Mayor Marino, second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Resolution number 2025-03, a resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolution 2021-01 and 91-27, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, adopting a schedule of property classifications for governmental properties, adopting the annual disposal and collection assessment roll for governmental agencies, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Mayor Marino. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Okay, resolution number 2025-04, a resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolutions 2021-01 and Resolution 91-27, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, ratifying and adopting the annual service charge billing roll, providing payment periods, providing early payment discounts, providing enforcement, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Marino, second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Yes. And Madam Chair, I failed to read the resolution and adopt the resolution for 2025-05, which was for the combining those service areas. If I could do that now.
Please.
Resolution number 2025-05, a resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the realignment of service areas for FY 2026 and approving temporary rate continuity for Service Area 5 customers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Weiss, second by Mayor Marino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Public hearing is now closed. Thank you. On to old business.
We have none.
New business.
This is item 9D2. This is the collection franchise contract discussion to determine the levels of service and all of the requirements associated with the upcoming franchise collection bid next year. Our objective is to put these bid and RFP documents on the street in September at some point in time. So we need some additional information from the board at this point in time. So I've got a presentation I'll go through. Feel free to interact. There's a lot in here, and I'm going to ask you to make decisions as we go, so that we don't end up at the end and it's too confusing. So anyhow, so starting off, this is what the board has already directed us and approved. Now again, anything on here can be changed. Depending on your how you are finalizing this. So garbage is automated, semi-automated twice a week. Excuse me. Recycling once a week. Bulk collection, 3 items collected once a week. Yard waste, 6 cubic yards weekly at no additional cost would be excluded from the estimate of volume for larger piles, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The commercial rate was set at $5.50 per cubic yard. The SBE contracting goal has been changed. It is no longer an SBE MWBE, it is SBE. And you made the decision that in order to be considered local and qualified to submit an RFP on that SBE service area, haulers must establish and maintain a customer service office located within Palm Beach County 30 days prior to contract commencement, not at the time of the bid. So that's where we are there. This is the map, and this is the map that we've been presenting so far that identifies the service areas. This map is essentially the same that we've been using for the last couple of processes, with the exception that now the Glades area has been incorporated into Service Area 2. So that's where we are right now on the map. Let's go on to the next slide real quickly. For your information and to help you in all aspects of this discussion, we are putting up here single-family homes by service area, by commission district, to help you understand where your individual areas are. We've broken it down with small lots and larger lots for the discussion as it relates to vegetation for the 6 versus 12 cubic yards. So this is where we are right now with the single family. We only put up the single family because the multifamily really doesn't vary that much, but single family does. So are there any questions at this point about what's on this chart?
Commissioner Flores.
Yeah. Once again, I'll echo my previous comments. As you see, Service Area 2 is now the one that's going to be significantly higher at $377 for the collection fee, while some of the other service areas are going to have some are right down the middle, like around 300. There's some others around 208. I just wish that we could. There's a way, and I don't know what that map looks like. I have to be honest with you, But if there is a way that we can sort of bring the numbers tighter together, so that we can, and I'm assuming it has to do with how we draw the maps and when we go out to bid. But it is significantly higher than 377 is significantly higher than I think the lowest is 208, and I don't even know which service areas 208 is. But I would like to see our residents be somewhere in the middle, not so. I feel like it's a little disparity there.
I guess I can address that, I guess. The board is free to draw boundaries however the board wishes to. The rates in South County have always been very low. It's always been that way. The only way that I think you could make that come about is if you redrew districts to incorporate some of South County into Middle County. But right now, the way, going back, prior to 2014, we had 11 districts. And in 2013, the board entered into a discussion to try and do exactly what you're saying, is trying to take away the highs and the lows and mitigate that a little bit by blending western areas with eastern areas. And when the bid was first done, it accomplished that. The rates kind of moderated. The western areas came down. No one saw any significant increase in the east. In fact, in the aggregate, total collection costs went down. But since then, most notably for 2019, when we put took service area 6 out of service area 2 and used that as the MWBE set aside, that took about 14,000 single-family homes out of that district. And it's clear that resulted in higher rates for service area 2 at that time. The hope is, at least somewhat, and I know this doesn't totally satisfy the problem, is that by taking that MWBE set aside out of service area 2, bringing that area back into 2 and moving the set aside down south, that it should help to mitigate a little bit the higher rates. But you're right, we've always had this tale of two areas where South County is low and everything else above it is high. There are a lot of reasons for that. It's based on a bid. South County generates less. They've got a lot more HOAs and POAs. They pay property management companies to collect yard waste, so they put out very little yard waste. And they're low generators. They tend to be more seasonal. That's always been the case. The only way, like I said, I don't know what the prices are going to be, but I know statewide the prices have gone up everywhere. In the past, we haven't seen those kind of increases, but I'm up for suggestions from the board as to what the board wants to do.
I think the biggest obstacle it's the western part of the county, and I feel like it's just one portion of the eastern part that's taking on the toll of the western part. And I feel like we should spread that across the board. And I know you're trying to make a decision here, and I guess what I'm asking is not to make a decision right now, is to go back and see how we can work this, study it a little further, and see how we can make this a little bit more equitable across the board. Because I feel like there's a significant fee between 208 and 377. So maybe it's not something that we have to decide today. Maybe we can go back to the drawing board and see how we can draw the maps a little bit more equitable. But I feel like, some of the areas that have the lowest median income are paying the highest fees. I don't think that's equitable.
Are you finished? Administrator Pilowitz, and I'm going to chime in. I do agree. We do, in these service areas, they're significantly higher than the other ones. And I'm sure because of previous policies, as you had mentioned, and maybe taking a look at how we can more evenly distribute so we can get some more even fees, because we are paying significantly higher. Now, I do know that there are some areas that are going to be higher and some are going to be lower, but historically speaking, the maps have been able to incorporate both to keep rates similar. But now it just seems to be a huge, a significantly higher amount for the Western community, and then to Commissioner Flores' point, for his area and the people living there, their ability to pay that.
Yeah, I understand, and this has been an issue for all time. If we isolate the western areas by themselves, their rates are going to go through the roof. If we include them with the eastern areas, then it does result in some higher rates in the eastern areas. That's always been the case. Before, when we had 13, we had more districts. Ramona, do you have that slide of when it was before? So this is what, and I sent this to all of you, this is what the rates looked like historically. So what you're seeing on the left is when we had the 11 service areas and what the rates were. And what you're seeing on the right is what the rates were after we consolidated. And you can see in the first year, like looking at service area 1, you had some folks with rates that are $346, $376, ended up paying $165. And then when you look at service area 2, what is now, you had rates from $168 a year up to $376 a year, and they ended up at $176. And on down the line. But you'll see when you look at this is the rates in South County, which would be service area 7 and 5, 6, and 7, really, have always been significantly lower than the rest of the county. And so you could go to more districts, but the more districts is likely going to result in higher rates for some.
Mr. Pellet, I don't think that's what we're suggesting. I think what Commissioner Flores, and I don't mean to speak for you, so correct me if I'm wrong. What we're suggesting is that you don't just incorporate, if we're incorporating eastern areas to bring the rates down, I think it's spreading it out more.
And so what I will say is that this is a special assessment. So special assessments, there's laws related to special assessments. And the things we can't do is bid multiple areas and then blend rates. That we can't do. And we also can't consider anything other than the cost of providing the service. So you can draw boundaries. You could take, a southern area potentially and combine it in a district with a middle area, call that one district, bid it together. You could do that. But there's really no way to get beyond the fact that the western areas generate a lot more veg. They're a lot harder to serve. The productivity is a lot lower, and it does impact their prices. So, I'm open to anything that you want to do and can come up with legally that we can do to do that. But you could. But again, it's going to end up in subsidies and cross subsidies, no matter how you do it.
And I don't think I'm going to wrap up my thought, and then I'm going to let Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Woodward go. The idea is that exactly what you're saying. We realize that you're going to have to incorporate other areas, but if we redistrict the maps, why is it just one area that is included to help offset those prices?
I don't understand exactly. What we did was we took 11 districts back then, and we've basically turned them into 5 now.
No,
So
I'm not being clear, but so let me let Commissioner Weiss go first, and then I'll clarify later.
I understand your point, Commissioner Flores, and it impacts the residents of District 2 as well that are part of service area 2 or 5 or whatever we're calling it now. It's clearly, I guess if we drew north-south districts potentially, as opposed to east-west districts, that but then you'll end up with the people, that are further out west. I don't know how we grab them, but I just, there's a difference. I mean, when you have HOAs like we have down in the South County, where there's 0 lot lines, almost all those homes down there, and so it's very quick to pick them, for them to service them, and it's very different. I know I've got large lots in our community off of Pioneer Road, and they're very different. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know what we will do. I mean, the costs are the same, and it's just how you spread that out. And I guess you could put it all in one district.
Well, the only way to really do it is to do what we used to call the Highlander approach, which was just have one company bid the whole unincorporated area and award it to the one company, and then you'll get the same rate in the entire unincorporated area. There are risks associated with that.
Right.
It's huge. You're looking at 300,000 homes or so in total. If there's a problem and you have an issue with that company, then you're basically locked in with one company with no backup.
But that's really the only way to get, if you want to normalize the rate for everybody, that's the only way to do it.
Or like I said, the way you draw districts is we've drawn them. Can you go to the district map?
But if you put the western areas by themselves,
They're going to pay a lot, and
They
they
are
did
gonna pay a
historically,
lot.
and you see it in the schedules I showed you before.
right?
They're going to pay a lot, and if you do that, then that South County's still going to pay what they pay, and the
Right.
disparity is going to get even bigger.
Right.
So like I said, the only way to do it would be to basically marry lower cost areas with higher cost areas, and that would really be the only way to do it. Let's go back to. Can you go back to the map with the 11? Do we have a map with the 11 districts on it? So this is the map when we had 11 service areas. And so when we combined them, you can see how we combined them compared to the way it is now. You have a southern area and you have a middle area. And if you combined a southern area with a middle area, you would probably come up with a rate that's somewhere in the middle between the two. We try to keep everything contiguous, but we're not precluded from doing that. Ultimately, this is a policy decision on your part, and we're going to go with whatever map you decide you want, and we'll help you do that. But that's my suggestion. Would be if you want to go back to something like this and just take, an eastern area and marry it with a middle area, and but that's going to result in higher rates in South County, and should result in lower rates in the middle part of the county.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I guess my question is, because we have to, when you even look at this map here, we're not accounting for municipalities. So, it would be helpful to kind of have a solid, and I know the other map that we have for the budget, or is it this one? I think we're talking.
Yeah, we have a map with the municipalities on it. Can you?
On slide 3, right? We have to carve those out, because I think it is important that we do like for like, and density matters, and I believe Commissioner Flores, your district's pretty dense, so when it comes to the productivity for a company to go in, I mean, they're hitting a lot of homes in a dense area, and and then in the western communities is very spread out, and that's part of the concern here is the size of the lots. But then part we're dealing with a lot of gated communities, which I don't have a lot. That's most of my district is picked up by a municipality. I think Commissioner Powell, same thing.
That's correct.
But when it comes to trying to put like for like, the density matters, and then when we draw the maps, it needs to be geographically contiguous, right? We can't spot pick. That would not be a good thing to do.
What I'm telling you is you can.
Okay.
There's nothing that prevents you from doing that. ideally, operationally, you prefer they be contiguous and concise. We've got the map up with the municipal boundaries in it. So it's
Here?
it's on your screen right now. So when you see that gray area, those are all the municipal areas, and then everything else around it that's kind of in tannish colors, those are the unincorporated area. So
I see it would also be helpful on this map. We have the, the huge area that is the EAA and the refuge. And again, like that's not,
Right.
it is hard for us to kind of look at this and see properties versus, I mean,
Right.
this
Well-
it looks district, the 5 waste management one is huge, but where are they actually picking up?
they're picking up in and around the cities of Belglade, South Bay, and Pahokee. And it's about 2,000 units. That's only 2,000 units. So we service about 300,000. So it's a very small number of units.
But looking at this
Interspersed.
map, it's like, oh, this is the biggest one, and it's really not. It's probably the smallest contract. Yes?
That one is currently the smallest, yes. That is by far. And that's why that's always been a challenge, is because there's so few units. But again, when you look at the map, it is the areas around, it is those areas that are interspersed around the municipal areas. And that creates some difficulty too, because it's not entirely contiguous, even though it looks like it in a box.
Mm-hmm.
It does require meandering around and around the cities. Ultimately, the best determining factor as to what something costs is what the haulers are bidding on it, because they're the experts, and they do their due diligence and they go out and bid on them. I mean, you could.
I do agree with what Commissioner Flores is saying. When you have a very dense area that it's not going to cost the haulers as much. And when we put them in with large areas, and I also don't have the good solution for this. And, when you have an area that it's a lot of gated communities or landscape is picked up and taken, that's not part of the contract. So it is complicated. And I don't want to see us over subsidizing some areas for larger lots because, that's a choice too. I mean, we hear that a lot that, we move out to these areas because that's the lifestyle that we want. And sometimes that does come at a cost. I don't want it to come at an extreme cost on this, but balancing that, I hear what he's saying and I do agree, especially when it's a very dense lots that's not going to generate a lot of vegetation. So that's probably not helpful, but I'm just saying that I agree that if we can find a good solution, we should.
We have Mayor Marino and then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you. For today, for the purpose of today and what we're doing, Commissioner Flores, you're okay with where we are right now?
I want to be clear. I don't have a perfect solution for the map part. And what I'm asking is that maybe we have our staff meet with some of the haulers and see if there's a way to alleviate some of this. I didn't come here today with a solution. What I'm asking is the experts to try to see if there could be a solution.
Okay, so my question is, for today and the fact that we are going to make a vote on what we're doing today, do you want to make changes to what we're doing today, or do you want to say what we're doing today is good, but going forward, let's see what better solutions we can come up with, and with more data, like in District 1, how many homes are in municipalities versus how many are in unincorporated, so we really have a comparison.
I think when we go through the list of decision makings that we want to do today, I think we should definitely move forward with that, with the caveat that maybe by this, in 1 or 2 meetings, we can see if there is any solutions to the map, and then we can adjust maps if that is the case. Once again, I don't know, but I think we should move forward with the idea that maybe we can redraw some of the maps.
So the question to Mr. Pelowitz then is, if we adjust maps, what do we do with the contracts for the haulers?
Well, I mean, we would have to schedule another meeting, maybe a special meeting, or delay the issuance of the bid and RFP until after the October meeting, where we could finalize these things. But if you'd like to go through everything else in here, other than the map today, and make decisions on that, then that would certainly be helpful in us putting these final documents together. And then once you decide on a map situation, depending on what we can come up with, then it's just a question of, just changing numbers and changing unit counts in the schedules that are going to go out. So, I mean, I would prefer to go forward with at least all the other decisions. And if we need to revisit the map, then we can talk about that at another meeting.
I have no more comments.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Pelowitz, my question concerns, this is an annual assessment. Are you aware of how many complaints or have there been a number of complaints from residents who've had the issue of being able to cover this cost?
No.
Okay. In the grand scheme of things, is this, and because I don't have the numbers, compared to what the municipal haulers are charging for those who are in areas that are incorporated, is there a way, or do we have the numbers to compare on an annual basis to maybe what's being charged, just to see a reflection of where we are in our different service areas as opposed to what municipal haulers are charging for those who are in incorporated areas?
I don't have them at hand. We can get them. Generally, though, if you look at areas around the state, the rates have been going up. Port St. Lucie's rate is like, what, $350? It's like $350. They just went out to bid 2 years ago. So that's a pretty urban interior municipal area that I know off the top of my head. But I don't know what the cities who haul their own are charging, like West Palm Beach and things like that. You know, I would say that the rates in South County are the anomaly. They're not normal. They're nowhere near. I haven't seen any other rates around the state that are as low as that. So that I will say.
Thank you. And the reason my question centers on those concepts is to compare of what we're looking at for those who are being serviced by municipal waste haulers inside of the municipalities compared to what we're doing, and if it's in line, right? Because the challenge I'm having right now is there a problem that we're looking for a solution, or is there a problem that we're creating to create a solution, right? And I just want to make sure that what we're doing is in line with what everybody else is. So if I live in West Palm Beach, and I didn't bring my computer with me, so I can't pull up my tax bill right now, but I want to make sure that, I don't know off the top of my head. I know what I pay in taxes, but I don't know what that is overall. I just want to make sure that we're in line. And
Right. If I may for a second, I just want to state that we don't get complaints about people not being able to pay it. It's billed on the tax bill.
Correct.
With everything else. And so it's not something they see in a separate bill. So I just want to make that clear. It's on the same tax bill as everything else, so they're looking at the big number. They're not necessarily looking at all the little numbers within it.
Well, understood. And me personally, when I do look at my tax bill or I look at any bill, I itemize things, even your credit card, and I go, oh, I paid for that. Oh, that's so just to make sure when people look at things, if this stands out, somebody's going to make a call or somebody's going to be challenging it. And that's what I want to make sure we're not doing, because if this is something that puts people over the top where they can't afford their taxes, i.e. one of the issues we were dealing with in our other board meeting, I want to make sure people are aware of that and we address it head on. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores and then Commissioner Sacks.
Yeah, I see Mr. Gonzalez wants to say something, so I'll ask him to.
So, yes, Commissioner Flores, thank you. Romana, can you go back to the 11 districts to show the rates? So one thing I just want to bring your attention to, if you notice for the 2013 contract, which goes from 2014 to 2018, if you look at Service Area 2 compared to Service Area 1, the difference in rates, there was a $12 difference. I know you mentioned there was such a huge delta now. And the reason being there is because Service Area 6 was a part of 2 in that service area. Service Area 6 is a very condensed area. It's easy to service, close units, HOAs, commercial. And the reason why we used that service area for the SPE set-aside was for startup companies, an easy area for them to get their foot in the door. Well, what you have already voted on was to put that Service Area 6 back into 2. And if you look right now, the difference between rates are about $77 between 2 and the next highest. So if we were to look, like Dan said, a bid is a bid. We can't forecast the numbers. But when 6 was already part of 2, it was more comparable. It was only a $12 difference. So you've already voted to put that prime area back into 2. So it's already, for the upcoming bid, should offset that rate difference quite a bit.
Right, I understand that, but my concern is, and I want to share with the board, is that I've heard from all of the haulers that the prices aren't going down; they're only going up, because the cost of living has gone up, because the cost of services, products, everything has gone up. So now we have a Western community, and I know the comment has been made that people that choose to live out there is because they want a different quality of living, but not everybody in the Western community has a nice quality of living. I mean, we have Belglade, Pahokee areas that are, their median income is extremely low. So we have vulnerable communities out there. So I don't want to leave them off in an island. I want to be clear about that. Like, when we go back to that old map where the Western communities are isolated, I don't think that's fair. I also don't think it's fair that only the central part of the county is taking on the burden of the Western community. I think that the Western community should be a shared approach so that it makes it equitable for all of the districts. So I want to make sure that I'm clear about that.
Right.
Now, do I have a solution in my head? I don't know what that looks like. To me, I guess if I was going to paint a clearer picture, it would be almost like the star. Like the districts go east to west. And that way, but is that feasible? Probably not because of the road systems. And we have the reserves out west, so it would be hard to navigate that. I guess what I'm asking for today regarding the map is let's go back, let you sit down with the haulers, figure out if there is an easier situation, and how can we lessen the burden on just the one district that's taking the toll of the Western communities. So that's my ask today. If we come back and you say, hey, Joel, we tried everything, we looked at different things, and there's really no other way, then I guess that's the way it'll have to be. But what I'm asking today is let's go back. Let's go see if there's any other way that we can lessen the burden on some of the districts, and we can share that across the board. Because I know that these rates are only going to go up when we go out to bid. And if it's $377 today, are we going to go be well over $500 in the next contract that we enter into? So that's my point. I definitely want to move forward with making some of these decisions. I don't want to continue the conversation just talking about the maps. All I'm asking for today is, can we go back, look at some of these, talk to the haulers, and see how we can maybe lessen the burden on that one.
Yes, Commissioner
district.
Flores, we
Thank
can
you.
do that. And if it's the consensus of the board that we do that, then we will certainly do that, and then we will delay the issuance of the bid and the RFP a little bit, just so we can take a look at these additional maps. So,
Sarah.
Commissioner Sacks?
All right, thank you. I think this is an interesting conversation because it goes into whether some communities should bear the burden of economic issues and other communities. I have lived in the city, Boca Raton, and now I live in an area where there are no cities. District 5 has no cities. We're all county. What I have seen in last year's on waste material is that the areas that are unincorporated have different waste materials. I mean, it's fewer cans, more yard rubbish. What occurs is that people will dispose of their yard rubbish in areas that they shouldn't. If anyone would take and I don't suggest that you do this, but the western part of the turnpike is full of garbage. It's full of garbage that people have, and sometimes these are the landscapers, will dump their garbage along the area which is owned by the county or Lake Worth Drainage District. It's full of plant material that they did not want to pay for our solid waste authority to dispose of. So this is a whole big deal, because if we want to look into what's happening with garbage collection, you have to take a look at what is occurring with those western communities in my district. Many of them landscapers that are dumping along the areas along the turnpike. That costs the county to dispose of this plant material. And some of it is still there, which is a fire hazard. I've had 3 fires started by plant material that was dumped illegally within 20 feet of my house. So maybe this is a good time, staff, to take a look at what's really going on with our garbage collection. Because as the rates go up, landscapers and as well as tipping fees for waste material from equine areas are going to, we're going to see more and more illegal dumping. So I think it might be time to take a good look at it. But it's just also because the rates are going up, people are moving out west, and we have to account for that. So thanks for this good discussion, Mr. Pellets. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. To Commissioner Powell's question, I was able to pull mine up for Boca, and I believe we have West Palm Beach numbers too. Just for comparison, and I do live in a very dense area. It's single-family homes, but extremely dense. We pay for last year's rate was $325 for the year. So, and it's same type of pickup, 6 cubic yards once a week, so that's what we currently pay. And it's on our water bill, so that's how I was able to find it.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Chair. I looked up West Palm. We're $250 a year, twice a week, plus our vegetation once a week.
Without seeing any more lights, Mr. Pellowitz, one of the things I think we were getting at is what would happen if we combined, say, something like Service Area 3 to 2 and 5? How would that affect the rates? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, obviously, Service Area 3 is a low-cost area, so like one option that just popped into my head is you could take the Glades area and combine that with like Service Area 3 and say if you're the hauler for Service Area 3, you have to service the Glades as well. And they could potentially subcontract that collection to somebody else, meet their SBE goal, and you bring down the rates for the Glades, because that's 2,000 units added to 50,000 units. So there are things like that you could potentially do. We'd have to go back and look at it, and there are different ways to draw the lines. I think, we'd have to look at it. I can't do it on top of my head, but
And I think that's what we're asking, is just not adding more or less areas, but what areas could be combined that might be able to help make it more of an even rate across the board. Not exactly even, but just somewhat more similar than 208 versus 377.
We will work on that. If that's the consensus of the board, and it seems that it is, that we will work on that. We will schedule, and I think I'm going to have to look at our procurement schedule and see how we stand there. That may require a special meeting between now and October, or we could do it at the October meeting and then put the documents on the street after that. But I think we do need to make a decision, at least by the October meeting, on how we're going to construct these districts.
Would the board like to, or if you think that an extra meeting would be, useful for September instead of waiting until October. Would the board like to maybe agree on that before we leave? Does anyone have any objection to that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Commissioner Powell, in order for them to look at it, they might need to bring us some more information prior to October. Would you have any objection to us having a meeting in September? We wouldn't normally.
We need to look at that. I've got some things on my schedule to make sure I'm not in conflict. But I mean, by all means, if I'm not able to be here, I can prepare my information. But let me
Thank you.
take a look.
I was just going to say, I see staff back there shaking their head no. Is there an objection from the staff? Yeah, I'm looking at you guys. You guys were like, you don't want a meeting in September, so just making sure. Is good with you guys? Okay.
It doesn't matter to them.
Okay. No, I saw their head shaking. Maybe they
All right,
they
so
weren't-
without, and we'll work, trying to put that together then.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the schedule, and like I said, if we can make it work in October, are you okay with just doing it in October and not doing the September meeting?
Correct. The only reason I brought up September is because you
That's
thought
correct.
you might need it.
Yeah, so I'm going to check with our procurement people, look at how much time we're going to have putting this on the street, and make sure it's doable if we make the decision in October. If
Okay.
not, we'll get with your staff and schedule a special meeting in September.
Sounds like a plan. Were there any other questions that you needed answered?
Yeah, so
currently?
I'd like decisions that are left so that we can make these decisions and leave the boundaries as the only thing left. So I'm going to put on my glasses now. So, as I said, I've gone through the things that we've already talked about. And so now, again, you've directed us to issue this bid at both 6-yard and 12-yard volumes so that you can take a look at it and determine which one you want to award. And you've also, so I think we've covered the service area 5 and 2 thing. The first thing on the list is the estimate for non-compliant yard waste piles. Currently, we have an $8 cubic yard rate for piles that exceed the 6-yard limit. You've already directed us to give credit for the first 6 yards, or if we opt for a 12-yard option, they'll get credit for the first 12, and they'll only get charged on the difference. Right now, we're at $8 a yard. It hasn't changed since 2019. We haven't applied the price index adjustment factor to it. So the question is does the board want to increase that rate from $8 to $10 a cubic yard, given inflation, or do you wish to leave it the same? If you leave it the same, the haulers are all going to bid around it. So it could still be 8, but they'd have to figure out how much to increase in their base bid to cover this. If you increase it to 10, which I think is reasonable, then it's less likely they're going to do that, and it puts the burden for the additional large piles on the person who generated the pile. So that's the first decision. A, do you want to keep this estimate for non-compliant piles, keep this process? And B, do you want to keep it at $8 or move it to 10? Or some other number that you deem fit?
I do not see any lights, so I will chime in. I personally would like to keep it the same. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I would allow it to go up to $10. I don't think it's fair for people that are not putting out the excess vegetation to subsidize those that are, and that's what would happen. And everybody will have to. It'll be spread out across everybody, because haulers are just going to build it in.
Yeah, me too.
Mayor Marino, or excuse me, Commissioner Woodward, then Mayor Marino.
I was just going to say, I agree with Commissioner Weiss.
Dan made a good point where if we keep it at 8, the fees are going to get spread out, and the haulers will just make it up somewhere else. So I would see going up to 10.
No more lights. I will just point out that, again, this is just going to be higher for the people who have vegetation, which seems not fair, because we've just had this discussion about evenly trying to get everyone on the same page. But if it is the will of the board to go up to 10, Dan, you have your direction.
Thank you. So I've got that one. Next one, subscription service. I'm going to note here that I've put some things on here that are options. I don't necessarily advocate it, but it is an option. The subscription service would be a way, if you chose the 6-yard option, for a resident to contract directly with the hauler to increase it from 6 yards to 12 yards. So if you're a resident and you don't like the 6-yard service and you want a 12-yard service, we'd ask the haulers to bid the rate for the 12-yard service, and they would pay the difference, and they would get 12 yards a week. The downside of this is I think it competes with the option you just addressed, is that residents, I think, are more likely to want to go to that $10 a yard option just when they have a big pile rather than subscribe. And I don't know how many people would actually do this. It's going to be operationally, it's going to be complicated from an administrative standpoint to keep track of all of it. But it is an option. It's something that's similar to what's done in other areas of the country, where if you want to get a couch picked up, you've got to call and there's a fee and they pick up the couch. That said, I will say the CAC did not like this option. Citizens Advisory Committee didn't like it for those reasons. And, but again, it's something I've brought up. So does anyone have any interest in it?
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Just to be clear on this, the subscription service option, we would not be responsible for maintaining that subscription, right? That would be on the hauler?
That would be on the hauler, but we would have to get up-to-date reports whenever they add people to the list so that we know who has it and who doesn't. Because otherwise, you know, we need to be able to respond to customer service complaints, and if someone has it and they're not getting it, then that would be a problem.
How is it, I mean, I guess I'm a little confused on how much oversight we have to have on the haulers. I mean, if they get the contract, is it not on them to?
We handle all of the customer service for collection. So we have field reps, a lot of them are sitting in the back there, who are out in the field all day, every day, making sure that the haulers are doing what they're supposed to do, following up on complaints of missed collection, following up on complaints of damage to mailboxes and things like that. We're out there all the time. What you don't want to run into is someone getting a pile tagged for having a 12-yard pile when they have a subscription that allows them to have a 12-yard pile. Because that's the standard would be, oh, it's bigger than 6, I'm going to tag it. So we would need to know all of that so that we can then properly deal with the customer and properly deal with the hauler. So it's not a big deal. We do it, we coordinate with the haulers all the time. And under the new program, we're developing a new customer service system, electronic system, and the haulers are going to be required to use that system. So all of the complaints will come through. They'll get them automatically on the system. The resolutions of those complaints, all of those things is going to be integrated. So, yeah, it would be important that we know so that we know the resident is getting what they're paying for.
Mayor Marino.
Just a quick question. With the subscription option, will the haulers be charging us an additional fee?
The fee would not come to us. It would go to them.
So, but their administrative costs will go up, which gets passed on to us.
Our administrative costs will go up in administering it. Yes, it's complex. It will be. Again, I don't know that it's entirely necessary. So if no one's in love with it, then my recommendation would be to just not do it.
I'll voice my opinion. I'm not in love with it.
I agree. Not in love with it. Commissioner Flores, I see. Did you turn your light off?
I was actually going to ask you what you thought of it, since this affects, I think, your district and Commissioner Marino's, Mayor Marino's as well. So I don't want to make a decision on something that doesn't really impact my district as much. So.
Yeah, and just so you know, Commissioner Sachs as well has a lot of vegetation. Did you want to weigh in on the subscription service?
I have, in my area, we have a lot of large HOAs, gated communities, but we also have a lot of agriculture. And again, when the prices go too high, they just illegally dump. So I think that whatever is best for the whole community is fine for us. I have no specific
Yeah, and
issues.
I
on
don't
it.
see too many people signing up for a subscription, so to add those administrative costs don't seem to make a lot of sense.
Thank you. I have your direction. Thank you. The next one on the list is the vegetation amnesty option. We talked about this at the last board meeting. There were some who brought up the fact that West Palm does do it, and there are other cities that do it. We talked about how obviously it wouldn't be workable to do it all at the same time because it would overburden the hauler's resources and result in higher prices. This vegetation amnesty option would allow each single family home the opportunity one time a year to put out a bigger pile. And you could call it hurricane prep, you can call it whatever you want, to put out a bigger pile. We have it in here at 15 yards. You could make it whatever you want. We would do it on a staggered basis, segment the service areas so that you're not doing the whole service area at the same time. We would have to provide outreach through HOAs and POAs and other organizations. We would have to put something on our website so that people can type in their address and figure out when they want to do it. This is complex. Again, there is going to be an administrative burden to it. There's going to be some cost to the hauler. I can't quantify how much. It doesn't necessarily mean that over the course of a year more material is going to be put out. It just means that there's going to be a short window where there is a larger amount, and that would probably be followed by a smaller amount later on. This is an option. I'm bringing it up because it was discussed. I think we found a way to make it work, but that doesn't mean it's not without cost, and it doesn't mean it's not without administrative burden.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I mean, so living in a community where we have it, I feel like most of the time we miss it. And I think I just think it's going to it'll add cost. And if you miss it, you get no benefit out of it. And then you have to make sure that how you get the notice out to people, let them know which week it's going to be. I just think it's very difficult to manage. We get a notice in our water bill, and they'll post it online that says this week, you can put out, and they do it in advance. They'll, tell you the date, the week date that you can put out an extra large pile, and they'll take whatever. So if you can get your work done and put out that big pile that week, and you remembered to do it, you can take advantage of it. But I don't know. I think we're probably like most people and forget about it, and then until you see a neighbor with a big pile out, and then you realize, and then it's too late. And so I don't know. It's nice, that we get that notice, but most of the time we're not able to take advantage of it.
Commissioner Sacks.
As I mentioned in my agenda review with Mr. Pelowitz, let's keep garbage simple. If I've got to check TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and look at SWA, life's getting a little complicated. If we got extra money, let's cut some of the costs for the people. Otherwise, let's just keep garbage simple. So I agree with Commissioner Weiss. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll come at this from a different lens. I do think that it would be important for us to have an estimate of what it would cost administratively, as well as an estimate of what it would potentially cost haulers if there were, and this could be based on the percentage of people who may take advantage of it, taking into account what Commissioner Weiss has indicated. I will tell you full disclosure that in West Palm Beach for the Amnesty Day as we prepared for hurricane season. I was one of the people who was able to take advantage of putting extra vegetation out prior to, during that amnesty time. So without having a real look or a survey of the number of individuals who take advantage of an amnesty program to do more than 6 cubic feet, we're guessing. So I would like to have a little bit more data, a little bit more documentation or evidence in terms of, does this make sense? And if it does make sense for those individuals who would benefit, because I believe that, if the amnesty programs did not work and people were not taking advantage of it, the municipalities that have tried it would just scrap it. So it would be useful or helpful to have a little bit more information as opposed to us, kind of guessing off the top of our heads. It's always a challenge to compare myself to the 1.5 million residents who live in Palm Beach County. So if I had a little bit more information, a little bit more documentation to see, it would be helpful to make that decision. Maybe it does work for some people. Maybe it would be beneficial, but I don't have enough information in front of me to make that decision.
Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I want to echo that sentiment too. Anytime we're trying to make decisions up here, it would be good to have data backup to understand what we're talking about. For example, in the subscription services, you said that it would add administrative tasks to your staff, and and that would create a cost burden to us. So, but what does that look like? Is it significant? Is it not significant? No. But I guess what my comment is piggybacking on Commissioner Powell's comments is, anytime you bring things like this to us, we should have backup data, or maybe estimates, or so that when we're making decisions here, we should know. I mean, is it significant by, the cost to do an amnesty program? Because I wouldn't be opposed to an amnesty program, but if it's, a huge cost, then that might not be the way to go. But if it's insignificant, then maybe it's something that we can adapt. But without really having some of that data, and I know it might be difficult to get actual data because we go out to bid, but maybe you can get the data from West Palm and see how much it added to them, and that way we can try to make some.
Sure, we can
decisions
table
based
this put this on the to be discussed in the future. Table this internally, administratively. You're looking at probably less than $50,000 a year, probably closer to 30,000. It's not an entire person. It's just, it would not be that extreme. But as far as the cost to the hauler and in the rates, I think we can take a look at contacting West Palm and seeing what it costs them, and we'll bring that back. Unless the board, if that's the will of the board. So.
With No More Lights, I would also like. I'm just going to finish my thought. Commissioner Sachs had said something earlier about also, if it's too expensive, they just won't take it. Having an amnesty that people do take advantage of might help keep down the illegal dumping, to her point, in her district. I am in favor of it as long as the cost, when you bring that back to us, is not absorbent. And Commissioner Sachs, please feel free.
Yeah, thank you. My understanding is that before a storm and after a storm, folks are allowed to put out plant material without affecting what we're talking about, this amnesty today. Is that correct, Mr. Phillips?
No, not before the storm, only after. So
After the
once
storm,
we have a hurricane or natural disaster, they can put out as much as they want, and we contact our debris haulers and we
Good.
pick up everything.
Okay.
But before the storm, our policy, our message has always been, prepare today, don't delay, which is, let's get the trimming done year round. Let's put it out in modest amounts, and let's not wait till the last minute when there's a storm in the box and we've got everyone putting out big piles that aren't going to get picked up, and they're going to sit there through the storm. So that's been our message all the time. Again, the amnesty thing, I'm bringing it up only because of the fact that others do it, and it's certainly not impossible to do.
So
And
this amnesty thing is separate from what we do automatically after storms.
That's correct. And
Okay.
what we have it here now is it's staggered. We've got it in at 15 yards. You wouldn't need, if you chose the 12-yard option, you wouldn't need the amnesty because 12 yards is huge. We've put some boxes out front when you walked in to show what 6 cubic yards actually looks like.
Uh-huh.
Because, we talk about these things all the time, but no one really can visualize it. So that's kind of why we did that. And also for the public, any member of the public who was coming in on this issue would understand what it is.
Well, I think probably, as far as if we have additional monies that we can do this and allow people to put out more a 1 day, a year, their area, and if the folks want it, that's fine. I think it's just a matter of if you ask people, will you want to have one additional day of more garbage, or would you like to have $50 taken off of your cost of solid waste authority? I don't know. I'd probably prefer the $50, but depends on what the people want, and it depends what the costs. So I think echoing what my fellow colleagues say, let's take another look at it.
Okay.
And if that's what the folks want, then they'll pay a little, they'll pay the same, and we'll give it to them.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. So that one. The next thing on here is simply related to the ordinance. In the event that we change anything that affects the 6 cubic yard limit, we're going to have to come back to the BCC, and the BCC is going to we'll have to present an amendment to the ordinance to be able to conform the ordinance to whatever the service level is we decide on. So that's a maybe, and that's done downtown. We don't do ordinances, the county does. So that's that one. The next one on the list is SB participation levels. I just want the board's direction on the bid, which is right now service areas 1 through 4, which is not the set-aside area. We have a 20% SBE participation percentage proposed. This used to be 10% MWBE, 10% SBE. We're asking for 20% SBE participation. If the board's okay with that, we'll move forward with the 20%.
Are there any objections to the 20%? I think you're good.
Okay, on the SBE set-aside area, we are proposing a 51% SBE prime participation, which means the prime SBE has to perform at least 51%, plus a 20% minimum SBE subcontractor participation. We are proposing that the prime, if they perform more than 51%, can count toward the subcontractor participation. So does the board have any issue or any input as it relates to this proposal?
Seeing no lights?
Okay. For the RFP, staff is proposing to use the Small Business Administration size standards to define an SBE. The local size standards that are used by the certifying agencies are too low for a waste hauler. The Small Business Administration uses a $47 million right now is their average annual receipts to qualify as an SBE or as a small business under the SBA. We're asking for size limit in determining what.
Any objections? Commissioner
Can you
Powell?
repeat?
In order to qualify and it locally, their size standards, I think 12 million solicitation for administration to allow propose as and that size standard I think 40 is capital in order to set up and start, and that's investment. So that's why the last time EA size, just ask to do that again.
Good.
Businesses or companies that you already
To compete, it's not going to the business.
Thank you for your response. Good questions.
Okay, and next, qualifying for school. Primed.
Back with the included in
department.
I don't know,
in, you can blend it in. That's just not the case anymore. If you have limited available land and limited places to take it, then all of a sudden, they're suddenly paying something they're not used to paying for in the past. And so that adds a bit of a complication to them. And then another thing we'll hit on is it's seasonal, because when you get the big shows coming in and everybody comes down from the north and starts bringing their horses in with them, all of a sudden you may have 3 or 4 or 5 times as much equestrian waste during a certain period of the year. When you talk about building and operating waste management facilities, that really depends on keeping a somewhat constant supply of material coming in. It would be difficult, for example, here to operate 2 state-of-the-art waste-to-energy facilities if for part of the year you were only bringing in 1/3 or 1/5 of the waste stream. And so seasonal generation also is one of the challenges. I won't go into great detail, but in Palm Beach County, there are, of course, a number of private vendors who are out there, businesses who operate hauling services. Some of those services will actually have a place where they take the material and accept the material, and then take that somewhere else to be land applied, whether it's an agricultural area or potentially maybe a composting operation, or even potentially could go to the facility here to be able to be managed. What we'll do is we'll kind of look at all the different options or strategies that other places use, and then we'll kind of compare and contrast that a little bit with what's currently happening in Palm Beach County. What we did, and what the students, Jordan and the others did, is we looked at, I think it was 8 different facilities outside of Palm Beach County in terms of large equestrian areas. And you can just see real quick, the one that I'm most familiar with, that I've been to quite a few times with my daughter when we were showing, was up in Marion County, World Equestrian Center. But we also looked at, among others, Lexington, Kentucky, Fort Worth, Riverside, and then up in North Carolina at the Tryon facility. But we'll take a look at that. Just real quick, and I won't go into too much. So Marion County, it's kind of funny, they describe themselves as the horse capital of the world. And this new facility, World Equestrian Center, again, if you ever had a chance, you probably see the billboards if you're driving up I-75 at some point. But it's an amazing facility. It's an amazing facility, and they're only growing, and so they get huge amounts of waste coming in. I'll show you some photos in a second, but they have I think the way most, and they have a pretty robust set of county ordinances about how equestrian waste has to be managed. There's now one very large vendor who brings in roll-off boxes filled with shavings. Clean shavings, and then the stall owners, and they put it in those boxes when they're done, and that gets hauled away. And so the same company who's providing the boxes and the clean shavings then takes the material, and then they find another facility, and I'll show you some pictures of that in a little bit. I'm also show you a picture that at World Equestrian Center, they have side loader garbage trucks that go around and pick up the stall waste every morning in regular carts that they push out there. Looking at Lexington, Kentucky, of course, Kentucky bluegrass, big horse. They also are apparently the horse capital of the world, so I don't know which one of those statements is true or not. But it's a similar thing, is that they have a lot of material. Some of that is seasonal, but just because of the area they're in, and we'll touch on that, there's so much more land available for them to do land application, for them to send it out to composting operations. And so the challenges that you would see here are just not the same that they experience there. If you're into Western style riding, I think there's big shows up in Fort Worth and the Texas area, and they have, again, not necessarily a huge amount of residents, but they get a big population that comes in during the year. Well, you would think maybe Texas, okay, it's got a lot of land area, but it's also the Dallas-Fort Worth area is pretty packed. And apparently, the big event centers, they just put it in roll-off boxes and they haul it to the landfill. And so there's some areas that, because they don't have that readily accessible area, they send it straight to the landfill. I've never been, but there's a big show or showgrounds called Tryon, which is up in North Carolina. A lot of people go and show that up in Mill Spring. Again, very rural, very small during parts of the year, and all of a sudden it explodes when all these horses and riders come in. But again, they're able to, with so much land around that, and they've got ordinances protecting water and storage and things like that. But they're able to land apply most of that material without a huge amount of issue. We were talking earlier, Commissioner Sachs, about the fire and the yard trash. Well, if you look at this Riverside County facility, it's so dry out at this one area where they have these like desert horse shows, whatever they call them, and they have to haul it immediately away because all the manure bedding piles were catching on fire. And so that just ends up going to the landfill. Again, completely different kind of scenario. Land, but they have a different set of environmental conditions that really affect it. And then up in Georgia, with the Georgia International Horse Park up in Conyers, again, kind of a rural area, get a big mass flux of horses in during part of the year. They can control and capture that. But again, by and large, most all of that is going up into land application and somewhere in the area because they simply have that available to them. And let's see, two more in Colorado at the Colorado Horse Park. And again, the way we got this information is both online and students calling and trying to talk to the vendors and talk to the facilities. Again, kind of a bit of a seasonal thing, not as big as what you'd see here in Palm Beach County, but they were able to collect it and apparently do composting for much of their operation because they have the area and the facilities to do that. And then lastly, up in LaGrange County, Indiana, this is kind of an Amish area where there's just lots of horse and buggy type of activity. So lots and lots of horses, but much less like organized shows and stalls and things like that. And for the most part, everything we were able to gather, it just gets naturally applied back onto the land. So if we step back then and look at these case studies, and again, in the report, there's a lot more details if you're curious, but it's really regional specific. And you are unique here in Palm Beach County in terms of the situation you are at geographically. If you go around, it's very common in some areas to contract with waste haulers. And again, depending on what the ordinances say, typically it'd be a licensed hauler. Like Village of Wellington has, a system of licensing manure haulers, but similar things in Marion County and other places. But there are vendors out there who pick the material up, and then that same vendor may have their own processing operation, or that vendor may actually just put it and take it to another site, and that site then has to either do a process or take it off for land application. When the land's available, by far the most common thing is land application. Now, if you look at a lot of the ordinances around the country for the local governments, they have limits on the amount that can be applied in terms of like how many pounds of nitrogen per acre and things like that. And so you can't just land apply ad nauseum, but the idea is that you can land apply if you have the land. Now, again, if you're talking about raw equestrian waste, not composted waste, then you're talking about, though, a product that does have some odor to it and does have some negative side effects to it if it's not done correctly. And then after that, there was some landfilling, especially if the landfills were there and there wasn't allowed to put it on the land. But the real big technology, I would say, to process is composting. And we'll talk a little bit more about composting here in a minute. Here's the summary table we made up. We don't need to dwell on it, but just those checks, the more they rely on a particular technology. And so, again, here in Palm Beach County, there's some composting. I think, was it Sunshine Acres has a large facility, and they do their own composting on site. There's some land application. Again, there's historically more than maybe in the past than there is now. And, of course, then some goes to one of the waste energy facilities, and then the ash from that will end up being disposed of in the landfill. But if you go to North Carolina, you can see it's the predominant land application, or Indiana or Georgia. And other areas, it's more based on either composting or landfilling. So just in terms of stepping back and talking about then technologies, if you're trying to figure out, what to do or what your options are, of course you have issues associated with just how do you handle the material itself in terms of storage and transportation, and then what do you do with the material? And so we have a few slides just to touch on each of those topics. As I said before, storage and having the right size pile in the right location and not near a water body, those are common themes throughout local government ordinances about where you can stockpile, how long you can keep it, how big the piles need to be. And then, of course, it all depends. That's actually in that middle left side. That's me on my tractor on my property where I'm managing my equestrian waste. So if it's a local farm or barn, then typically you can just handle all that yourself and you can land apply it. Whereas you can see the IDA cans, which is one of the facilities here in Palm Beach County. They have a construction business, so they have roll-off boxes that they can use for part of the year, and then part of the year they can use that as a pickup collection service. That's what's really done in Marion County. And you see the garbage truck in the lower right? That's actually the garbage truck that runs every morning out there at World Equestrian Center. And what you do is you muck your stall, you fill up those roll carts, and then you collect it. Here's a shot from that all-in removal facility. So this is really a facility that takes in. You can almost think of it as like a transfer station almost. This is that takes in the equestrian waste. They unload the boxes. They then take that to another facility, which we'll show you in a little bit. But notice how it's a paved area, and it's got pole barns or bunkers. And one example of a facility that we visited here, the students visited here in Palm Beach County, was J.H. Hauling, which is much more of they take the material and then they put that in another truck and then they take it somewhere else to be appropriately managed, whether it's through a composting operation or whether it's through land application. You don't necessarily have the equivalent like external facility that I'm about to show you for what they do in Marion County. Then in terms of land application, I mean, this can be done with just manure spreaders on large areas of land. You just have to do it right, and it has to be done in a manner, and the way it works in the state of Florida is you are allowed to apply this stuff to the land if it's beneficially used, and there are guidance and they reference IFAS documents and things like that, but the idea is that you have to do it the right way, and DEP is willing to look at any kind of application to see whether it's done correctly. Now, composting is what? It's just, and you have experience at SWA with composting from years past. The idea is that you're just taking an organic waste that will decompose, it will biodegrade, and you do it aerobically. And so you get bacteria, you add air, you have to fluff up the piles and things like that. If you do it long enough, you get a good product. And a lot of the topsoil we buy in Florida that is bagged up comes from vegetative material, whether it's yard trimmings or whether it's manure or bedding that's composted. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while for that reaction to occur. And what that means is you need large amounts of area, space, and time to be able to do that. Again, Sunshine Meadows, remember, is part of that Right to Farm Act and normal farming operations in Florida. You're allowed to operate those facilities on your own property as long as you do it the right way and follow the correct and appropriate strategies. Where all the material up at WEC, at least most of it's going right now in Marion County. I don't know if you've ever driven on 75. Before you get to Ocala, I think there's a big composting operation called Black Cow, or you might even seen Black Cow. You can buy it at Home Depot and Lowe's as a product, but they're currently taking the WEC equestrian waste material, as well as like a lot of cow manure and things like that. And they bag it up, but it's a big facility. You're talking 100-something acre facility and 30, 40, 50 acres dedicated to just the composting operation. And, not super crazy high technology or anything like that, but it's not as simple as just throwing it in a pile. You have to actually turn it, and you have to mix it, and you have to monitor it. Okay, so I hope I painted the picture that, land application can be done if you have the land, and it has to be done the right way. The trick is, do you have the land? And in some areas you do, in some areas less so. Composting, if you want to talk about a treatment process for equestrian waste, that's really the one that is the most common and probably the easiest to do. However, it is not a simple process in terms of just putting it in a pile. It's something you have to actively operate and actively monitor, and it does take, I think, a good amount of time to get a good product. And by the way, compost operations, typically, they're not out there making money selling compost. Now, they'll make some money, but they're making money charging tipping fees because it costs so much to be able to operate and all that, that the product that they make, they're going to try to sell, but the idea is it's an intensive operation, and it takes time, and it takes space, and it takes permitting and things like that to be able to do that. One thing we did to try to help put things in perspective for you was to kind of just step back and say, well, let's assume, what did we say? Our estimates in solid waste or Palm Beach County up to 300,000 tons a year of equestrian waste. Well, we just said, okay, well, for 100,000 tons, what would be like an area that you might need? And these are just kind of estimates and assumptions, but you can see that if you were just to stockpile that for at least some period of time before you were able to move it off-site, you're still talking dozens of acres to be able to do that. To really do land application correctly, you're talking, 100 acres or so to do that. And then if you really want to meet these nitrogen rates, it's probably 300-400 acres you'd need. Composting, again, the facility I was trying to use as reference a little bit was that Black Cow composting operation up on 575, again, it's I think on the order of like based on their permit, like 100, 150 acres or something like that. Probably a 30, 40, 50 acre area where they do the composting. So it's a pretty large area. And then of course there's all these other technologies that I think I maybe skipped over a little bit too much that you can use. So what can you do besides composting? Well, you can, in theory, you could burn it, meaning that you could send it, of course, to one of the facilities here. The tipping fee would typically be larger than what people are normally used to paying. There have been cases out there where someone has built a small little incinerator or some kind of thermal treatment unit to handle it. The challenge is that when you start talking about thermally treating small amounts of material, it's expensive to do that, and it's cyclical, and so you're not going to have it for part of the year. Anaerobic digestion is where you like make methane or biogas out of it. That can be done, but it's typically more expensive than it is to do composting. That is a technology. It's not something that's really employed in the United States at this point right now. And the other one that you'll hear a little bit about, because there's a lot of interest these days, is something called like pyrolysis, where you're making biochar, if you've heard of biochar, but the idea that you basically cook the material down but leave some of the carbon there instead of burning it all. And now you have a carbon product that you can use for lots of different things, land application. And so, but again, that's a process that, would take a little bit more capital investment, and you need to get that steady supply of material to make that. And everybody's out there trying to make biochar right now, from what I've seen. From any kind of organic waste material you can find, they're trying to make biochar. And not saying it won't work, but just know that that's a big common avenue that a lot of vendors are trying to get into. All right, I think I'm just about wrapped up. So kind of key takeaways is that, the challenges, of course, that you face, and not that I need to tell you that, but, of course, big population density and land availability. In terms of where you're able to site a facility, you're talking about not much area, my understanding anyway, currently, based on where you're allowed to put these kind of operations. And it takes a fairly decent amount of area to be able to do that. I mean, I can just speak for myself. I have 5 horses. I live on 8 acres. I have a hard time figuring out what to do with all my horse waste and things like that. I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it takes a decent amount of area if you want to land apply or you want to be able to compost. Things like these advanced technologies, are certainly technically feasible, and they're out there. They're just not done in this country. And so they will be maybe more in the future. They're done a little bit over in Europe and places like that. But in this country, probably the best example of a big concentrated area close to here is up in Marion County, up at World Equestrian Center. And basically, they take it, they collect it in roll-offs, or they collect it in garbage trucks, and it's managed, and then ultimately kind of through a transfer station, and then ultimately through a composting operation. You're allowed to, again, under state rules, have a facility operate without a permit under these normal farming operations. But if it's an actual facility taking this stuff in, you would have a permit. But in Palm Beach County, under Rule 1, it's exempt from that, so you don't have flow control over that material. So with that, you have the report. I know I rushed through a lot of that, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to at least hear some of it. I'm happy to answer questions or provide feedback later as well. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Pelowitz, was there something you wanted to add, takeaway, or questions you need answered?
No, not at all. We thank Dr. Townsend for this in-depth report. His presentation only touches on what's in the full report. There's a lot in there. We are going to post that report on our website for anybody to download if they want to see it. But we're very thankful for the opportunity to do this. The only thing I would say is, and stress, is that the challenge that we have as the Solid Waste Authority is we have capacity to take it at our waste energy plant and at our landfill, but the rates that we charge are higher than most want to pay, and so it doesn't come here. The challenge in building a facility is making it economically cost effective. And we saw that with High Point on our site over by Benoist Farms Road, where the cost of the facility just became so high that financing is an issue. So we, as the authority, we don't have flow control over equestrian waste. We're under the same, we are preempted by the state from regulating agriculture. We could build a facility, but if we can't require people to bring it to us, then we can't build the facility because obviously it needs to be paid for. So with that, obviously if you have any questions for Dr. Townsend.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you very much, Professor Townsend. Didn't think I was going to find equestrian race so interesting. But one of my questions is, and again, I'm going to use personal experience. I had a horse, so we kept it. He lived in a stall, right? But we didn't put out any shavings. It was outdoors, right? And so I just picked that stuff up, wheelbarrow it over, and so there's no shavings and so forth. Is that waste treated any differently or not?
Yeah, so that's the thing about manure is that it's really a small mass compared to the bedding. And if you were just managing manure, usually you go out there a few days later, if you put it in the right area, you don't even see it anymore. I mean, it just kind of degrades and is integrated into the soil. Now, obviously, if you have giant piles of that can be a problem. But like at our place, we'll go out and there'll be some areas where they're not in the bedding. We'll just take that manure up. But that ends up being such a small fraction of the material I have to deal with. It's all the soil bedding and everything. And so, yeah, manure is just a different animal. It's not, if it was just the manure, probably wouldn't be a big discussion right now.
Okay. And then in terms of when you talk about land application, we have a lot of farming that goes on here. Is it allowed to be used for crops that are grown for human consumption, and how's that all work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure if there's anything that prohibits that. The way the solid waste rules work is that it can be land applied, and the real focus is not on like any kind of exotic chemicals or anything in there. It's just on nutrients, making sure you get enough nutrients out there. I think the challenge with land application, quite honestly, is that the farmers just don't want to use it necessarily for whatever reason that might be. When we in our discussions, those were the kind of feedback we have. There are rules about land applying compost or waste in Florida, but because again this normal farming operations and the fact that it's not really always governed or regulated, they're not like super tight in terms of you must pass these criteria. Under 709, there are some things that say if you're going to compost it, you need to meet certain criteria, even a few different like element concentrations that are in there. I don't think, at least in the solid waste universe where I'm from, there's anything that says you can't use it on those kind of crops. Whether there's something in some agricultural regulation, I don't know.
Okay, and then I guess my last question on this is, we have, and you spoke specifically about the Wellington area, where we have a lot of our horses during season come. And so I saw a recent news story about, and it's interesting because the people next door who were being impacted by this, I guess they're using a property as a transfer station out there, yeah. And the people next door have horses as well, and they were concerned, I guess, because of the smells and whatever else of that. And my understanding from the art or the news story I read that they weren't required to have, it was considered agricultural use or something like that, and so didn't have to get a permit, or they got a permit from DEP. I'm not sure. But the real concern and as you mentioned, was the runoff because we have obviously a lot of canals and so forth, and how, is that allowed to be managed, or who's responsible for that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I've read some of those same articles. I'm not super in-depth into what that particular case is all about. But the idea is that you can have, I could imagine you have a property, we have horses, and you generate manure and shavings. You might manage that on site and not have much of an odor problem beyond normal horse odors, things like that. But if you're to pile that up, then that's where it starts to degrade. It can go anaerobic, it can have more odors, attract more vectors and things like that. What you see normally in all the ordinances that we looked around, it's really about water supply. And so there are requirements typically that say you can't have it, of a pile of a certain size, certain distance from a waterway for a certain amount of time. And so that's typically how that risk is addressed. I don't know off the top of my head or remember what specifically, for example, the Village of Wellington says about the pile size, but they have requirements in their ordinances about how and where and when to do that. If it goes to another site, again, the trick is because if it falls in this kind of normal farming operations or it's not something you have control over, it's a little bit harder to police that and figure out whether that's an issue or not. So that's a challenge that you have to look into.
If I might, can I just ask you to expound a little bit? From reading the report, this issue of typically with properties requiring a vegetated, planted, I guess I call it a buffer or a barrier around the properties, and also along areas where there are canals and water bodies to try to protect against runoff. It was a pretty consistent requirement throughout the country.
Yeah, the idea is that if you're going to have an area or a place where you're going to stockpile manure, the idea is you want to be able to control any kind of runoff associated with that. So the idea that you have distance requirements, or you put these buffer requirements, or you get some kind of vegetative strip in there to be able to help remove the nutrients before they get into the water supply, is a pretty common theme that you've seen in these ordinances around the country.
Is that all, Commissioner Weiss?
Yes.
Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. I appreciate it. I know this has been an issue that has been brewing for some time in my district. And now that we're going to have an addition of a polo field in District 5, we're going to get more horses as well as the ones that we presently have. Nothing like Wellington, but many of the polo fields, many of the polo ponies that compete in Wellington reside in District 5. This is an issue that I have personally been involved with, having 5 horses myself, and I find it very interesting to speak to somebody who is actually a professor. Usually, it's the farmer or the rancher, and they give me what they've always done. And just to give you anecdotal examples, what we always do with horses is we'll use an apple picker to take the manure from the shavings, put it under fences, because it burns in our area, it burns the grass. So if you put it under the fence line, then you don't have to, you don't have grass growing under your fences. We used to burn it. Don't do that anymore. And but we certainly can't spread it on the grass because it kills everything, at least in this area of Florida. Storing manure is an issue because, and I'm so happy I never knew that Commissioner Weiss also had horses. But storing manure is an issue because as you store it, you have to have a cement bottom and sides, and then if you don't get a Solid Waste Authority to come out and pick it up with the tipping fee, which is expensive, it begins to heat. And there's nothing scarier than looking at that storage unit, and you can just imagine that thing coming into combustion in your backyard. So what we've always done is just put it all around the fence line. And I wish I had a horse that would leave a stall and go outside like a dog would, I don't know how you did that. Mine come in from 3 acres and do their business in the stall, So, but it is, you mix it in with the shavings and then it gets to be a bigger bulk. I have spoken to Mr. Pelowitz, and he's been very good coming out to Sunshine Meadows. I have a constituent there who owns many horses. He has the financial means to experiment with all this manure and has made fertilizer out of it. They're like black cow, you call it. And I've actually purchased some of it and used it as fertilizer. So possibly we can use that technology. He just needs, he's got a huge production out there. Sunshine Meadows off of 441. So maybe we can expand that with some available land so that we can actually do something with all this waste material from horses. And I really appreciate, and I think you have a student here as well.
Jordan.
Yeah, so if you don't run away, I'd love to be able to chat with both of you about it later.
Thank you.
And share. Horse people always like to share little stories about what's going on and things like that. But I want to thank you, Ms. Pelowitz, because this is, Wellington is only getting bigger, and our horse industry in this state is billions of dollars. And Tallahassee knows that. They know that. And Marion County with Ocala is huge with the horse business. So it's an industry that is growing. It's financially very, very successful to the state's budget. So whatever we can do here in Palm Beach County, Mr. Pelowitz, I would love to be able to be a part of that and work with you as well as my colleagues on turning manure, that straw into gold, as they say. So thank you so much, both of you, for coming here. Thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to help with this.
Mayor Marino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All in, removal in Marion County, how much land do they have for their processing plant? Because I pulled it up and it looks like it's, a tract of land right along the I-75. Is it a large parcel of land?
Yeah, I think for that facility, remember, they don't do the composting there. That's more of just they bring the material in, then they haul it out to the disposal or the composting operation. I don't know the exact number, but it's 10 acres, maybe something like that. You can see it right off I-75, yeah.
So, we come up, we get this stuff put in front of us, and I don't want to assume that you have already spoken with All In Removal.
I've never spoken to them.
You've never spoken to them. I don't know what their tie-in is to everything in Marion County, but considering all the fact that we have as many horses or more here, have they been contacted about another topic that we're going to talk about later, the High Acres community, the High Acres parcel of land that we have?
They have not. We haven't spoken to them.
It would seem that if there's someone doing what we're looking for someplace else in the state, it might behoove us to reach out to them. That was my comment. Thank you.
With no other lights, any more questions?
No more. Thank you.
I'm going to add on to something that Commissioner Weiss was asking about, and it seems like a while ago now. But I have personally spoken to farmers who, even if it was the best product in the world, wouldn't take it onto their property. They already combat enough messaging problems in trying to message the idea that equestrian waste isn't what it is, and that it would not be harmful to food. People will never believe that. So that's why they won't use it on their property, spread it out, because of the messaging that is out there, which is why we're stuck looking for a facility or some other solution, because they can't just take it out to these farms and apply it as needed. And that was pretty much all I wanted to say on that. I've dug into this quite a bit recently, and we're just trying to find solutions to what is a problem that's only going to get worse. So thank you.
All right. Next item would be 9E2, which is the lease of the parcel at Cross State Landfill. We are seeking board direction as to whether you wish us to issue the RFP to seek proposals for a lease of the parcel that we own on Benoist Farms Road. We have a presentation, but it's really just showing you where everything is. We're asking for direction from the board for any use that the board wishes to authorized, these proposals would come back to the board. The board would make the decision as to who they want to lease it to, if anybody. We will seek proposals. My only statement is you can lease the property for a solid waste use or not a solid waste use, but in order to lease it for not a solid waste use, the board would have to find that leasing that property for that purpose does not impair the solid waste system of the Solid Waste Authority. I think you could reasonably opine that if that was your determination, because we're not using the property now, and I can tell you that it's we don't have any plans for using it now, so it's something you could determine if you want. I will say that the appraised value of the property has gone up significantly since the last time we had it appraised. Last time we had it appraised, it was about $70,000 and change, and now we're up to $400,000, and that's for the entire parcel, and that's reflective of the fact that industrial property is kind of hard to come by these days. So that's my presentation. If you'd like any more, have any questions, Romana can answer them for you.
Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask regarding the 20-year term. Is that consistent with what's out there? I mean, they're going to be making an investment. Is 20 years enough time for them? So I just curious as to whether that's adequate.
I think 20 years is a long time for the Solid Waste Authority to lock up property, but we understand that if they're going to make an investment, they need to be able to expect a longer term lease, and that's so 20 years is what we have. Obviously, I think we should accept proposals for shorter leases and let the board decide if they want to do that or not. I don't know that I want to go beyond 20 years and lock that property up for 20 years, which is something that future decision makers may want for a solid waste purpose if we need it.
But they won't be disqualified.
No, I think we should allow the proposer to propose the length of the lease that they like. It could be 10 years with a 10-year renewal. It could be a 20-year. It could be 5s. I think it should be up to the board to determine, which deal they want to take, which deal you want to take.
Okay, sounds good with me. Thank you.
The only, did you want to speak there?
Put my microphone on. We've talked about this quite often. I think we should go ahead and issue the RFP. And as Commissioner Flores said, timing is everything. But tying up a property, if someone does the RFP and says, we'd like to do it for 40 years because we're going to invest X amount of money on a building, blah, 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 I think it will be up to the board to be able to negotiate that.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I agree. It's actually one of the comments I was going to say. If somebody's putting in huge capital investment into it, they might need something longer, especially with, as you've previously stated, we have a high threshold of requirements to build an equestrian waste facility or composting or whatever kind of facility that may look like. So just keeping that in mind.
Yes, that's correct. The zoning requirements on the property are pretty extensive.
And forgive me, Lisa, I don't want to embarrass you, but I see that you're here. At some point, this might be something that might need to come to the board. Just keeping that, on your radar. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just looking for a motion and a vote on the issuance of the RFP.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mayor Marino, a second by Commissioner Flores. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the next item is 9E3. This is a contract amendment with the operator of Renewable Energy Facility number 2. I spoke about this with each of you in agenda review. The essence of this, among other things, is to change the outage schedule at REF 2 to better accommodate our operations in exchange for a reduction in the electric energy output guarantees by the plant operator. Romana has a presentation he's prepared to go through, and obviously whether you need that or not is up to you.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a first by Commissioner Flores.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Sacks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
9F1 is next. This is authorization of a 90-day renewal of the Atlas Peat and Soil permit to allow them time to come into compliance with fire rescue on the installation of a dry hydrant system. Okay. So that,
Need a motion? I mean, do we need a presentation? If not, I'll
no,
make a motion.
if you don't need it,
Motion to approve.
I have a first by Commissioner Flores.
Second.
A second by Mayor Marino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please say that the motion carries 7-0. There's, I believe we're on to you, Mr. Pelowitz.
we're on 9G1, just one more item.
One more.
This is the purchasing manual revisions reflecting the changes that the board made in the equal business opportunity policy back in June related to the executive orders from the president as it relates to race and gender. We said we would come back with the strike through and underline revisions to the purchasing manual. So we are asking the board to adopt the amended purchasing manual.
So moved.
I have a first by Mayor Marino, a second by Commissioner Woodward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Yes, Romana.
Madam
just-
Chair?
Just to clarify on the Atlas Peat and Soil, was it through February of 2026, or you didn't do a 90-day permit?
It was from February 28th.
Okay.
For February 28th.
Okay, thank you.
The purchasing manual.
We just did that.
I think we just approved that.
Finished, so now,
So that's the last item on the agenda.
thank you. Comments by council?
No comments?
Comments by staff?
I would just like to take the opportunity to recognize Byron Lassiter, who recently passed away. He was been a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee since 1986, continuously. His contribution to the authority is tremendous. His dedication to the CAC as well. We're going to come back at the next board meeting with some sort of a resolution or something in his honor. But to spend that amount of time on an advisory board is exceptional. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner comments. I'll start with Commissioner Powell. No comments. Commissioner Sacks?
Thought it was a lively, good meeting, good discussion. I particularly appreciate the professional opinion by our University of Florida, and want to thank you, Mr. Pelowitz, for that, and I look forward to a good budget year. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I want to commend you guys for the presentation, Dr. Townsend. A lot of information I didn't particularly think I wanted to know, but it's extremely valuable for us to be able to make decisions up here. So thank you for you and your students for coming here today and doing this research. Wellington and the equestrian community is a big part of the identity of this county. So having a good understanding, I mean, the most I've done with a horse is pet it, right? That's about it. So, but it's important to be able to make decisions when you're informed. So thank you, and thank you for bringing them here to the board.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. I just want to thank staff. You guys do a great job, and how you take care of our constituents and businesses here. So thank you all, and really appreciate everybody's efforts.
Mayor Marino?
Thank you. Love the display out front with the 6 cubic yards, and I would encourage all of the commissioners to take a picture with it and post it on their whatever Facebook page or whatever you do to get attention, because quite frankly, in your mind you have a vision of what 6 cubic yards is, but until you actually see it live and in person, it's 3 large refrigerators. I mean, and so I think that's great for people to know, and I Commissioner Woodward and I took a picture, and hopefully Sasha sent it to us so that we can post that. I do appreciate that. I have gotten a call from a lobbying firm about our RFP for the lobbying firm, including a small business, and got an indication that the federal RFP for lobbying does not include that. So is that something that the authority needs to include?
So it's board policy. Obviously, our economic business opportunity policy has subcontracting goals in it for professional services. We include typically a 20% or more subcontracting goal in all professional services. That doesn't mean it's going to work in all cases. There may be unique circumstances. I mean, we'll take board direction on whether it needs to be included or not. What was, I guess, the question is, what was the specific concern that they had?
The specific concern was, and this is not something that is unique to this. I've heard this before in all different kinds of areas, that trying to fill that 20% is almost like paying someone to stay home. And so actually the bid would be higher because now they have to put in a 20% set aside. So I'm just kind of winging it out here. This is a broader discussion, but if there are RFPs that are coming out in the future, it's the same as what we've done at the commission, is let us know what the RFPs are. Let us look through it if we have any questions before you put it on the street. In the building of the RFP, let me say it that way, because maybe there might be an instance where we don't want to do that, but it'd be tough once the RFP is already written. Does that make sense?
Well, it's going to be, so typically, we don't operate the way the county does, because we only meet every other month. And so typically, we draft the RFP, we establish the award criteria, and we award the contract. That's typically, these things we don't bring every RFP or bid to you to look at. Obviously, in this case, someone who's a possible respondent is taking an issue with something in it, and I do respect that. It's really up to the board to decide whether, in this case, obviously you've heard something, so we're going to be looking for your direction as to what you want to do with this specific solicitation. I think their issue is they don't want to hire a subcontractor or a small lobbyist to assist them in our lobbying effort.
Mr. Pellets, may I for a second? And I've heard similar things actually, where the requirement of a certain percentage does make some primes unfortunately have to leave some of their workers at home or not use them or not hire them so they can move forward with trying to bid on something. Was there ever a time where we had it as maybe in the RFP where they're awarded more points but not a requirement?
I mean, yeah, you can always do that. They could submit a waiver, and then we can approve a waiver, but they're going to lose points. So, yeah, it is an RFP, so there's going to be 15 points for their SBE plan and 10 points for local, and then experience and qualifications and price, typically. So if you want us to do that, it's just sometimes it's hard to overcome the loss of that many points.
Right.
In an RFP situation. The one thing I will say is, in this case, since there's board interest, we can bring that RFP back, the RFP results back to you for you to award it. We'll do the evaluation committee, but we'll bring it back to the board for the board to decide which firm you want to use.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we'll leave it the way it is, but allow you to make the final decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Along those lines, Madam Chair,
Sure. Commissioner Powell?
I think we also need to really take a look at that. I kind of understand what you're saying, Mr. Pelowitz, and it goes right back to this purchasing guide or handbook we just went through, where all of the language related to SMWBE has been swapped out for SBE. So, you know, if we've swapped it out for SBE and there are certain percentages that are upheld, if there's 20% that somebody has to deal with, I'd like to make sure that we're kind of following what we've now put in place. In addition to that, if there are contractors who are complaining that they've had to leave their workers home so that they will meet that SBE participation ranking, maybe we need to address that and hit it head on and let them tell us or show us how that's impacting them, because I've heard people say that it's very difficult to meet these participation requirements. So let's look at that and let's see why. But if we have made a concerted effort to get rid of MWBE and all those things related to the ordinances that you indicated, the order from the president, then what we have secured, we need to make sure that by the people who we serve, that we're diligent in securing what we have left in place.
Commissioner Flores.
So I think Mayor Marino brought up, I think, two separate issues, if I'm understanding correctly. One is having the ability to provide input before an RFP goes out. And we recently redid the way we did that at the county. And basically any RFPs that are going to come or go out, we get a notice in advance. And whether we want to pull it to have a discussion before it hits the street. So I guess what I'm deferring to Mayor Marino is are you looking for something like that similar to be done at the SWO, where we get a notice of RFPs that are coming out? Do we want to pull it, have a discussion, make adjustments before it?
I would guess that probably 95% of the RFPs that come out from here, we'll just say, yes, go ahead.
Right.
You know, but it goes back to having input.
Right.
And if there is something that we deem to be important that we have our input, then we need to make sure that's in place. And that was what I was referring to when I said this particular proposal. The second point was, do people that are bidding on an RFP, do they have to increase their price to accommodate having a small business? So in the end, we're paying more to accommodate a small business as a component of the bid. So that's what, you know, it's like if you didn't have to hire a small business, what would your fee be? But if you have to hire a small business to help do the work, what is your fee?
Right.
I mean, and from what I've heard, sometimes a lot of people are, well, we know that that's a requirement. We want to get the points. So our bid is higher because we have to incorporate that into it. That's how I don't know how fair that is, because then we are passing that cost on to what our first discussion was today.
Right.
So that is where I am. Is that clear? That's clear as glass, actually.
Right. So, but it's, I guess I wanted to make the point, it's two different issues.
It is. It was two totally different issues.
Right. And
yes.
So in regards to that first issue regarding having input into the RFP before it goes out, I totally agree. I think we should have the right to pull the RFP if we see we have questions or we want to make adjustments, which we had that exact same thing happen yesterday. So I agree with that. And then in regards to the second point, I am a fan of helping small businesses. If it increases the cost, then I don't know how much. So I would be in favor of providing additional points if they're able to utilize a small business incorporated into that as a prime, rather than it is a requirement. But another component of it is I want to give work to local businesses. I think that should be, I think we should always give more business to the local team, because it doesn't matter if you're a small business, but you're out of, I don't know, let's say Georgia, the money's not staying here. The money is going somewhere else. So I think that's a component that I'm big on and key. That it's not just giving a small business the work, it's giving the local business the work, because we want to continue to enhance our small businesses here in the county. So I think we're making a great point in how we get to that end goal, but it should be about helping small businesses and the local business without affecting the ultimate pricing.
Right. And so our program is to qualify for small business points, they have to be local. So they have to be a local SBE in order to qualify for SBE points. And then we also have local points for the prime being local. If you want to, maybe the best thing to do would be for me to bring back our EBO policy at the October board meeting, have everyone look at it, and maybe there's some language and relaxation in there that we can do to address the issues that the board is concerned with. Because the procurement policy is the board's policy that I'm required to follow. And so I want to make sure that if we're going to add nuances to it, that they're board authorized and I know what our staff is supposed to be following. With respect to the RFPs, is it the board's request then that all these RFPs go on an agenda before they go
No,
out?
the clarification of that is you send them out to us in advance. We look them over. If we don't have any questions, you give us a time frame to answer. If no one has any questions, then the RFP goes out on the street.
All right, that's fine.
And
That'll
that's
work.
the policy that we're doing now at the board. Is that I think
believe
our
we
window
have
is
10 days.
Our window is 10 days.
And if we
but-
don't get back to you, then you can assume you can just move forward.
That's perfect. That'll work just fine.
This way, instead of having an hour-long discussion about something, we've already taken care of it.
Absolutely. That'll work just fine.
Commissioner Weiss, did you have a question on this topic or a statement?
Yeah, I do, and I think and I think just to clarify, or my position is similar, I think, to Commissioner Powell's and Commissioner Flores, which is trying to get there are local ratepayers, and to have them be able to participate in this business, I think is really important. And for a small business to be able to, there's never going to be a way for them to be able to compete. I shouldn't say ever, but it's very difficult for them to compete because a large company can decide that they can subsidize one part of their business with another part of their business, and a small business doesn't have that advantage, and so their ability to compete at that same level. So I think it's important that we do look at it. My question, though, to authority is, and I don't think we do that here, which is we look at the county, we look at each RFP, and within each one they create a goal, a target. And so, and I don't believe we do the same thing here.
No, that is exactly what we do.
Okay.
So for every solicitation goes to our EBO office. They go out, they look through the registries, they look to find available firms, and where there's availability within that commodity code, they will include a goal.
Okay.
So, and the goal is based upon the number of firms that they find and the availability.
Okay. I think that's exactly what I think we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, good. I'm glad you clarified that for me.
Moving on to Vice Chair Woodward, but real quick for Mayor Marino and Commissioner Flores, are you wanting this policy to come back in a presentation to us? And Commissioner Powell?
In my opinion, we should probably leave the policy as is, but I think we should have the opportunity to question the RFPs and make
Similar
adjustments.
to the county?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one particular item that we want to pull from the RFP and then we can change the RFP, I think we should do it there. That's my
Does that
personal-
require a policy change to be able to do that?
If that's my direction, you've just made the policy change.
Okay, that works.
Just follow what you said. If there are goals that we must meet for small businesses. I don't think there needs to be any changes there. We've changed what we needed to change with regard to the executive order from the president. But any goals related to small business, I'm not interested in seeing any type of changes. If there are percentages that need to be met, and there are businesses that don't think they can meet those percentages, and there are small businesses available to them, they need to figure it out.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woodward?
Yeah, my question was for the the mayor, and maybe for everyone else. If we're talking about specific RFP for a lobby firm, and it may not be the only issue where this could come up, but I guess my question is everything that we would be hiring for, there could be some instances where a single entity could give us what we're needing, and requiring a subcontract or for them to have a small business participation when really the single firm could deliver what we're asking for. Is that ever considered? Or, I mean, I know that they can hire a smaller firm to potentially do something for us, but we're hiring a lobby firm to go to Tallahassee or DC or for us, or you know, like, are we making it?
I guess so within professional services, the objective in professional services APIs and the preference in the program we have is to try to help to develop small local consultants, if you will, develop them into larger consultants. And the only way that they learn to do that in a competition is they're obviously, a small local lobbyist is not going to be able to compete with some of the folks that we hire. And the objective is to give them the opportunity to learn how that's done, to work on these issues in Tallahassee alongside the big guys, and to develop that reputation and to develop ultimately their own business. That's the goal. In the past, we have had the SBE participation on the lobbying, and in the past we have had smaller, I'm not going to call them boutique, whatever, but a one-person operation involved in that. On the other side of that, the one thing I do want to note is we do require that all subs perform a commercially useful function. So if someone is putting a sub on their team and they're not using them, that's not good either, because that's not achieving the goals of the program. The goal of the program is to develop small local businesses into larger businesses. And
Well, if I could, though, because I'm very split on this discussion. I understand what you're saying on a lot of professional services, but then again, my limited experience on this board and just three times in Tallahassee, we need strong lobbyists, and that I don't see Palm Beach County or even the Solid Waste Authority. I'm not going to call us a training ground, but we've fallen short on a couple of things, and there's other boards that I serve on that are not related to this, where our lobby teams have let us down in recent years. And whether or not, that's on them, or it's just, the nature, Tallahassee's no joke right now, that it's tough. And Palm Beach County, we are in a position where and this is a discussion that's going to be coming to all of us on how do we move forward. But, we're too big on some of this to be the training area for a smaller firm right now. I feel, and this is just my own personal opinion on this is when I feel we need some strong leadership in the lobby team. And I admit right now I don't even know who our lobbyist is, so whoever you are, don't take this personal. But the next session is going to be pretty intense. That what's happening even at a federal level is very intense. So if we're kind of handicapping any of this or trying to build up, I'm just not sure now's the time. And if that's going to be part of the bid, I just don't know that needs to be a priority in this particular moment. It may be in the future, things will calm back down and we can get back into that. But I think for us, we need the biggest, best guns that are out there.
Right. Well, I guess
Personal
what
opinion.
I'm looking for is, because I note there is not an agreement on the board, is I need direction. If you would like me to remove that API from this RFP, I guess now is the time to let us know, because we're coming up quickly on the next legislative session, and we do need to get this out, and we do need to get this awarded.
Vice Mayor, I didn't mean to throw a wrench in the system today, but
Welcomed wrench. Needed a discussion.
there are certain times where, again, we shouldn't be the training ground. We should be leading. And there are certain times where we need as many tools in our toolbox as possible. And I hate all these cliches and whatnot. But I think what it sounds like and what I was getting at was that I don't want to hire a lobbyist who is not using 100% of their team. If they're using 80% of the team, then their bid should be 80%. There should, here's my bid. If I'm just using the folks that I have in my office, here's my bid. If I have to hire outside representation for 20%, here's my bid, and it's 20% higher. We're passing that price. It's two things. It's a double-edged sword. One, we're passing that price on to our consumers if they have to charge us 20% more for the bid. Two, we're not doing those, as you said, they are not building that small business if that small business isn't contributing. So it's up to the rest of the board, but I almost would like to see in the bid proposal, if we're just using our in-house staff, the proposal is X. If we're using our in-house staff and we have to hire outside and we can't offset that work, our proposal is Y. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. This one is clear as mud.
I have some lights on. Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, so once again, I think we need to take this one item at a time, because what we're talking about is specifically lobbying.
Correct.
So, changing the whole program or the rule for lobbying doesn't make sense. So it should be on a per case basis. So I am a big fan of giving small businesses an opportunity to grow. Should they be the training ground on every opportunity? No, I think we should look at it one case at a time. But that's the issue that we have when we don't provide these small businesses the opportunity. What we were talking about yesterday about my speed humps. When we don't have competition in the marketplace, it's very easy to dictate the rate because there's no competition in the marketplace. So when you incentivize or you give a small portion to a smaller business, and it might not be for lobbying, it might be for other things, it does help that company sort of get up and running and be able to contribute to. What we're seeing, and I'm getting off topic here, but in the roads, there's only like 2 or 3 providers. So there is a massive delay in all of the, whether it's the state of Florida, whether it's the county, whether it's the local municipalities. That's what happens when there is a lack of competition in the marketplace. So I am a big proponent of helping small businesses continue to grow and expand by giving them a small portion. When it comes down to this specific, maybe we should break out the RFP. I think Mayor Marino mentioned this. If they're going to do 80% of the work, let them bid for 80% of the work. And if you want to give 20% of the work to a small business, let them bid for that. And if we don't like what we find in that 20%, we give it to the original. So this is on a one case basis. I know I'm sort of circumventing the RFP process. But in that particular issue, when it comes down to lobbying, then I'm okay with looking for the best person to help the county move forward. I don't want to change the entire ordinance about the 20%. In this particular case, I would be okay with it.
Can I offer up an alternative that might, I think, be acceptable? Let's put the RFP out. We'll take out the points for the SBE firm, but the board will see those who wish to submit an SBE participant. They submit it as part of their team, and the board will see that. And then you can score these as any way you want, and because it's an RFP, you can award the contract to whichever firm you want. So you'll see a base RFP proposal with, experience, qualifications, price, and local, and there won't be anything for points for the SBE team, but they submit the SBE team, and then you can make a determination as individual board members as to whether you favor that proposal over the other one or not.
I'm okay with that.
I think that sounds fair. Commissioner Powell and then Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you. Training ground. So let me break this down. As someone who has come directly out of Tallahassee as quickly as last year, I spent most of my day in Tallahassee meeting with lobbyists on one thing or another. So my experience in Tallahassee is much broader than, minimal. And just to be clear, I spent 4 years in the State House as a state representative between meetings, committee meetings, and meeting with directors and meeting with agency heads. A majority of what I did was meet with lobbyists. And then I was a state senator, which meant I had more meetings with lobbyists and department heads and higher level, department heads, agency secretaries and directors. And so we met with lobbyists quite frequently, and the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, and all that comes into play. Sometimes, I'll tell you this, your lobbyists who you hire are going to fall short. It depends on what's available in the budget. It depends on what the Senate President and the Speaker of the House are trying to accomplish. It also depends on what the governor does. Sometimes you'll get things in the budget and the governor will cut them. It depends on sometimes who's carrying the item in terms of funding, the appropriation request, and who else is advocating for it. And it sometimes depends on who the lobbyist also has on their team. But when you start talking about a training ground, I can tell you from meeting with lobbyists all day, sometimes some of these bigger lobby firms are not looking to give opportunities to small businesses. And there's not a big lobbying firm, and I can list about 10 to you if you want, but I don't want to give anybody any free publicity. But there are some lobby firms that nobody puts 100% of their lobbyists on one particular issue. I can tell you that they especially the larger firms, they're not using 80%. They may be using 2 lobbyists on this particular issue, whether it's school or this. And I knew them personally because you build relationships. But some of those lobbyists, some of those smaller lobbyists in Tallahassee who may be from Palm Beach County or from other areas are not going to get an opportunity, especially if you say we don't have to give them an opportunity, then they're not going to get the opportunity. So as someone who's coming fresh out of Tallahassee, as recently as 2024, I can tell you that anything that would negate opportunities for small businesses, I'm going to be against. I'm going to speak loudly and firmly against that, because we have an opportunity here to help create business, create opportunities for others to build businesses. And in Tallahassee, as recently as a couple of years ago, we passed a ban on lobbying for individuals who either came out of an elected office, whether it be the legislature or the county, to even lobby for 6 years. So we've continued to make it more difficult. And I can tell you from sitting on these boards, some of us know more of the people and know more of the inner workings of government than the people who we have lobbying for us. But with these bans, those of us who have done it, and I'm not looking to be a lobbyist 2 years after I leave, maybe, or 6 years, but with these bans, you're dissecting opportunities. And Senator or Commissioner Sachs can tell you, because she sat in Tallahassee for a long time like me. What we do in Tallahassee, we meet with people all day. There's not a lobbyist you can pick that's going to guarantee you that they're going to get the job done. They will try, and your senator and your state representative will try. They will meet with the president. They will meet with the speaker, but there are no guarantees in Tallahassee. That's just the nature of the beast, and it's going to get more difficult. It's just where we're going. But we have an opportunity to fix it and create the next generation, or create business for those who can learn how to do this and do it better and be in the room. But if you're never in that room, like I can tell you right now, nobody can tell me about the Senate like I can tell you about the Senate. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell me about the State House like I can tell you about the State House, because I've sat in those rooms. I've sat with the Senate president. I've sat with the Speaker of the House. I have sat with the governor. So I understand from that viewpoint, from driving to Tallahassee and flying to Tallahassee. But Tallahassee is a different beast. When we start talking about lobbyists, this is a much broader conversation that has to be looked at from a comprehensive approach. You can't look at it from my experiences. I've been up there 2 times. I've been up there. I've spent years up there, right? And I've neglected my family to be there, and I've dealt with the people, and I've seen people bring lobbyists into my office, and it's been the same lobbyists over and over again, and sometimes have been disappointed because I've talked to other lobbyists who've said they don't give us an opportunity, they don't speak to us. These are things, these are real, and we have an opportunity to impact that. And shame on us if we don't.
Well, since I brought this up, let me just say this. I do like what because I think we're on discussion, and I didn't mean to get us so off topic here, but I do like the suggestion that Mr. Pelowitz made. And then it will be up to us as a board to decide who we give the contract to.
Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Powell that Tallahassee is its own beast, and I think that we have met with lobbyists from a one-person office, and they do extremely well. And there are lobbying firms that have 20, 40, 50 people in them, and they're really not worth their salt. I think what we want here, and we all agree, is the best, most aggressive, tough warriors to advocate for us. That may be one person, that may be 100-person firm. But the most important thing is that they're going to lobby for us, and they're going to be tough as nails. So let's take a look at who wants this incredible job and opportunity to lobby for us, and because we are the best county of 67, we'll take a look at it and we'll choose accordingly. So I agree with, I think there isn't anybody here who will say that the best is necessarily the number of people. I like to see a little teeth in whoever it is who we hire. So let's see what we have.
Thank you.
We're the best.
So the last, did you have any more comments? Okay. I agree with everything that's been said as far as wanting the best lobbyists, not leaving
anything on the table.
Correct. Not leaving anything on the table. To Commissioner Powell's point, it's not always, I think, the largest company either. How are we determining if a lobbying firm is large or not?
Well, it's an RFP response, and so like I said, I will bring the responses will come back to you, and you as the board will determine who you want to be our lobbyist.
Okay.
It's pretty appropriate, I think, that we will ask for a small business plan that they should each submit. They can, I guess what I'm understanding now is, at least with most of the board, is that will be an SBE plan. There won't be points associated with it, but that the board can make the decision in considering their whole plan whether that's who they want to go with or not. And if you're more comfortable going with a firm that's just all themselves, then you can make that decision. If you feel like they've got an SBE on their team who's really good and contributes well to the team, then you can make that decision as well.
That sounds amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
I will wrap up by saying thank you to staff. Thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. Thank you for everything today. And thank you for coming all the way down here and giving a presentation on equestrian waste. I will echo the sentiments of my fellow commissioner in saying it maybe had some stuff I didn't necessarily want to hear, but it was very important information.
Welcome to Palm Beach County's Community Bulletin Board. Stay tuned to find important information on county services including Palm-Tran routes, road construction and closures, bids for county services, government employment, Crime Stoppers, PBC TV 20 programming, meet your commissioners, events and announcements, and much more.